So, good afternoon to everybody watching us here live and free on the Track Stars Racing Series YouTube channel. We are bringing you this broadcast at the spectacular and the welcome returned Trail Mountain Circuit. Located in Nevada, USA, it's going to be an awesome event with all of our TS3 drivers ready to go. Cars all spick and span, done their washing from the last time out at Watkins Glen. Teams and drivers been giving their cars a bit of a scrub up, bit of a tune up for this circuit, this 5.4 kilometer circuit. Very technical, very twisty, but looking at it on the map, you could say more or less it's a bit easy, you could say, in a way. The first few sections of Trail Mountain, more or less, could be flat out with a little bit of lifting and coasting through the first section, and then going into the tunnel, leading on to a windy section of corners before the back straight, and going into the uphill section for the last sector in Sector 3, where we used to have, instead of having a chicane back in the old GT days, they used to be what we used to call the basically like a bus stop in a way, is where you actually go straight. A little chicane, but you could actually dip the cars onto the curbing on the right-hand side on the pit straight, as you can see through that panoramic shot there. That you can it was basically more or less a straight line, and people used to fly over the chicanes and get themselves airborne to try and get themselves the fastest time possible. So if you guys have any memories of Trail Mountain, please do let me know here on the Track Stars Racing Series comment section below. I'll be able to read them out as soon as I can. But as we get ourselves underway, we're going to have 5 minutes of this qualifying session going underway, where we have our 15 drivers ready to go. Unfortunately, Renegade's on his way back, and he'll be making his return very shortly, just before the commencing of qualifying. So there we are. We are underway for qualifying. So we're going to have a look at our first driver coming through, exiting the pit lane. I believe it looks like to be a Honda driver that is in the trusty hands of Stick 7. The Motorsport Network racing driver in car 115. Stick 7, the winner of the Daytona Sprint only a few months ago, and also having himself a very good placing in the Daytona 500, finishing 4th overall against some of the main drivers that we see in the Touring Cars Championships. The Stick 7 securing a 4th place in that race is actually, interesting enough, actually made him eligible to race in the main series. If ever someone needed to call up, they would call him Stick 7. He's actually got himself in the top 5. So, actually, funny, interesting enough, you will see on the top of his roof, you have the Make-A-Wish, sponsored by Make-A-Wish Foundation. Getting behind the cause is Stick 7, as we see as well with some of the M&R drivers. I believe we look through the NZL Cowboy. He's got the RUAK for the mental health awareness. And then we have SS Boy supporting the McGrath Foundation on the top of his roof for finding sources of what leads to breast cancer. So some good backing for M&R and some good sponsorship that they've got going on for that team. So a very small team developing themselves as a TS3 stable mate, and hopefully will be able to make their way up into TS2 and hopefully one day into the main series as the years go by. But we're getting qualifying underway. Let's put ourselves into the shoes of Rick Green, the championship contender, the championship leader, I would say, of the TS3 Touring Cars Championship, in a very inspired retro look as we do say that it is a... so I didn't know if you guys call that on stream. His front end went flying on the top of that. That was insane by Rick Green. So unfortunately there, for Triple R Motorsport, and S Racing has done the same thing, and plenty of other drivers have got the same thing going as well. SS Boy, I believe Venti was a part of that as well, and yeah, there you go. So everyone having a bit of a struggle with the first stages of the qualifying with only 2.5 minutes to go. So cars are getting airborne, cars are flying all over the place. They are very unstable, and the guys don't have tuning available for TS3, so they just have to try and negotiate those corners a little bit with more care coming into qualifying, into their second lap of qualifying. With only just over 2 minutes to go, we hope to see them get themselves at least one more lap, or even two. But as we look towards the, so it's going back to Rick Green. He's sporting himself a very retro look livery for the car 69, the championship leader in the Triple R Motorsport. A very bright fluorescent red that he's got sporting on that car. Gives that retro vibes that Rick Green's got. Also as well supporting the number 18 in his good friend WJF. Wayne Fraser, also known as, who sadly passed away only a few months ago, and that was his racing number, car 18. They've actually retired that number in Trailblazers as well. So it's a very good sportsmanship for Trailblazers and the admin team there. If you do want some racing there, do go check them out. They do offer some awesome races throughout the weekday, but it's good for him to jump in for Track Stars, give it a go, and just represent Triple R Motorsport. But as we get some drivers about crossing the line so far, as we get our display over, we have Meat and Cheese Pie so far taking on provisional pole position, with Squirrel 18 in second place. Fly Baldy coming through on a bit of a run since his last time out. Now Walker's going to be showing off some good performances there, and he's currently in third place with Ironwood on his final lap. Later Gator, the first of the It's Racing esports drivers, in fourth place. First of the Lexus, I will say, in fourth place. Oz Tormentor in fifth. Then we have Ben Stick 7, first of the Hondas, in sixth place. NZL Cowboy, as I just caught him there running a bit wide. That looks like his qualifying session over. We have the returning Ice Renegade. Will be starting from the back row of the grid, and he'll have a lot of work to do. He'll be also running a retro livery as well. So as we get ourselves ready, I will just type in the chat quickly, check the flag, his time is up. So Ben Stick 7, it will be the first man to cross the line, but looks like Meat and Cheese Pie isn't able to improve his lap. He's just slightly impeding his teammate there in Squirrel 18. So I don't know whether these guys are working together, getting themselves a quick dash to the finish line. But who's going to take out pole position? Can Squirrel get himself another pole position in Track Stars on his debut? No, Meat and Cheese Pie doesn't improve. What about the guys behind? Fly Balding's actually improved into P2. Later Gator has improved his lap to get into P4. Ben Stick 7 in the fifth place. Tormentor coming through on his lap. He will stay in sixth place. NZL Cowboy didn't have a good run in the qualifying there. Unfortunately, there's the other didn't catch him. A little bit spinning sideways. Yogi B54 in ninth. Ice Nightmare coming through into 10th place. We're going to look at the guys like It's Racing, Rick Green as well. So It's Racing coming towards the start finish line. Will take our pole position on the last lap, and only just by 0.009 of a second. Wow, unbelievable scenes. Second Lexus driver to secure pole position, where the first driver was that gold, that 24k gold, who was in the Kermit Coffee Garage Flash Buzz racing team. And It's Racing secures himself pole position with Meat and Cheese Pie right behind. Fly Balding taking out a very impressive third place. Squirrel 18 in fourth, and Rick Green actually getting himself up into the top five. And the first of the Hondas, Ben Stick 7 in seventh place. So the gaps are pretty well spread out, with Venti in eighth, Tormentor ninth, Camaro Kid rounding up the top 10. So two FR racing drivers here this evening, Camaro Kid and Yogi B54. So very good showing by FR Racing. Ice Nightmare and SS Boy rounding up the top 14, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we may be able to get Ice Renegade back into the lobby as quickly as we can. Otherwise, unfortunately, he will have to miss out on the first race. So we'll make sure we get confirmation of that to see if he's actually getting himself into the lobby or not. But please do let me know who you are supporting for this retro round here at Track Stars Racing Series. So it's racing coming over from TS2 on a part-time contract, where he's actually managed to get himself a deal to get himself to race 9 rounds in the Touring Cars TS2 Championship. And now he's got himself a 5-round contract to race in the TS3 Touring Cars Championship as well. So it looks like we will be getting Renegade back into the lobby. So unfortunately for him, he'll be starting at the rear of the grid. Actually, no, that is not Renegade. I will kick there out. Sorry, buddy. Spot is for Renegade. Yeah, so fingers crossed we might be able to get Renegade in. I will allow a little bit of time. I'll give him about at least 2 more minutes. And if he doesn't show up, unfortunately, he will have to DNS from this race, unfortunately, which is actually a bit of a shame because Renegade is actually 90 points behind championship leader Rick Green between Triple R and Ice Racing Group. So there we go. Renegade's just joined back in the lobby now. So where is Rick Green? Here we go, in 5th place. So Renegade in 5th place in his retro-looking GTR, starting in 5th, whilst his championship rival Renegade will be starting from 15th and last place. It's racing taking out pole position ahead of Meat and Cheese Pie. So this is going to be an interesting battle. This is one I'm really looking forward to. Meat and Cheese Pie versus It's Racing. That'll be something spicy indeed. So if there's one guy that could probably stop the momentum from Meat and Cheese Pie getting another victory, it could be this man, It's Racing. He's taken out a victory in TS2 this year, so maybe he might be able to add to his tally in TS3 as we're about to go ready for the green flag. Just want to make sure Renegade is in. Yes, he is. And we are about to get this 9-lap race called round 10. I do apologise. It is, I did actually accidentally put round 9 in the YouTube and in the lobby, so I do apologise. It is round 10. It is retro round, and we are back at Trail Mountain, which we are very excited to have back on the Gran Turismo platform. So we're about to get underway as we get these guys ready to go for race 1 of round 10 for the Trail Mountain Sprint. It's Racing on pole position, Meat and Cheese Pie. It's Racing versus MSR. Always a classic battle with RSR closely right behind, with Fly Balding in 3rd place. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen. The moment you have been waiting for. Retro round is about to get underway. It's Racing taking out pole position with Meat and Cheese Pie in 2nd. Fly Balding and Squirrel rounding up the top 4. Rick Reed in 5th place. What can the championship leader do from this position as we're about to go lights out? Green flag racing. Beautiful start, even start by all of our drivers. We'll exit out quickly just to get ourselves the panorama shot. And there we go. We've got It's Racing leading the way. Meat and Cheese Pie has taken the inside line. He will take out 1st place with It's Racing going around the outside. He just holds on, but he's still hanging in there side by side between Rick Green and Meat and Cheese. Meat and Cheese Pie with his teammate behind Squirrel moving up a position. And we're going to see towards the back end of this. Yes, there we go. It's Racing has done a beautiful job there to hold on to 1st place. Meat and Cheese Pie in 2nd place. Squirrel in 3rd with Fly Balding losing position to Squirrel. And then Oz Tormentor putting himself in a very good position. Some good positions made by Oz Tormentor, Latergator and Benstick. I want to know where Rick Green's fallen out of. He's actually down in 12th place. So something's happened to Rick Green. And this is not what the championship leader wants, because there you go. You've got Rick Green in 12th and Renegade's up into 9th place. 8th place, we will say, going towards trying to make a move on the outside of Yogi B54. Doesn't look like that's going to happen, but Renegade positions ahead of Rick Green. So could this be the demise of what was an unassailable lead for Rick Green for Triple R Motorsports, now slowly losing out to Renegade 575. And can the likes of Meat and Cheese Pie come through, which actually he's lost the position to Fly Balding 72. So both MSR drivers losing our positions to the RSR driver in Fly Balding, and Tormentor's right behind in 5th place, wanting to make an impact for the WRT Motorsport. So there we go, we've got some top teams in the championship. We've got It's Racing, representing It's Racing Esports, leading the pack in the Lexus SC430. It's always a beautiful sight for me to see that Lexus up at the front. I do love the car myself, and it is a beautiful sight to see, and the sound is amazing as well. Squirrel 18's just made a pass on his teammate in Meat and Cheese Pie. So Squirrel 18 making the moves already on his teammate, the guy that's in 3rd place in the championship. Tormentor's right behind. Actually, I will say, they're actually fighting themselves out in the championship, so I do apologise. Tormentor is in 3rd place, but only 3 points ahead of Meat and Cheese Pie. So this could be very interesting towards the end if Meat and Cheese Pie doesn't get himself ahead of False Tormentor at the end of this Grand Prix. Tormentor right in the clutches of Meat and Cheese Pie. Latigator is coming through pretty nicely there, so he was going to try and make a move with Meat and Cheese Pie. Will he make a move on Tormentor? Thinking about going 3 wide. It looks like it's going to be 3 wide. Who will make the moves? Tormentor going for the inside with Meat and Cheese Pie going around the outside, just hanging on there. Who will give courtesy amongst these two as they go through this section? Oh, it's so tight, contact made. Meat and Cheese Pie making contact with Tormentor, losing out a little bit of traction. And unfortunately, that position will go to Tormentor. And it looks like Latigator's making a move, and he's made contact with Meat and Cheese Pie. So that's scored from bad to worse. And Meat and Cheese Pie has suddenly disconnected from the lobby, or disconnected from the race. Something bad has happened to Meat and Cheese Pie. We'll get confirmation of what's happened. But unfortunately for Meat and Cheese Pie, that is his race over and out. Squirrel 18 up into 2nd place. Fly Balding has dropped the position to Squirrel 18 in 3rd place, with Tormentor in 4th. Latigator inside the top 5 after making a bit of contact with Meat and Cheese Pie, and unfortunately him having a bit of a DNF for Meat and Cheese Pie. Maybe goes a bit of a DC, or whether it was a rage quit, I'm not 100% sure. We'll get confirmation later on. Ice Renegade has come from the back from 15th into 6th place now. A few positions ahead of his championship rival Rick Green, who's in 8th place now after Ben Stick made a big mistake. SS Boy for the M&R in 10th place, so 9th and 10th place for the M&R boys, with NZL Cowboy running around in 14th and last place. Ice Nightmare in 13th, just behind NTSS Gaming in the 3rd of the It's Racing Esports Nissan GTR. So 2 Lexus and a Nissan for the It's Racing camp. Camaro Kid right in the clutches of SS Boy in 11th place. So there we go, controversy here in the first race of Track Stars TS3 Touring Cars Championship, where Meat and Cheese Pie got a bit of a tag along there between him and Latigator, so there could be one for the stewards to look at as the conclusion of round 10. At the conclusion of round 10, but It's Racing leading the way at the end of lap 3 onto lap 4. It is It's Racing ahead of Squirrel 18, ahead of Fly Balding, so no positions changed just yet. But the one guy I'll be looking to keep an eye on is Ice Renegade. He's closing in on Latigator pretty quickly. Both of these guys are actually sporting retro liveries from the original diecast of Track Stars Racing Series. So the name Track Stars comes from the original diecast collection. And It's Racing himself, the series administrator, has actually gone into the efforts of bringing that to life. And bringing out some awesome liveries, and obviously bringing out some love into the championship by bringing the cars to life. What was the die-cast cars, bring them to life, and also we see Renegade as well. Running the old Eagle 1 die-cast Trackstar car. Some personal sponsors of his as well, and sponsors from Ice Racing Group. see. So you can see with Latigator as well. I believe the It's Racing Lexuses are based on the Turtle Wax. The Turtle Wax diecasts. I'm not 100% sure. You'll have to let me know on that. It looks like that could be the case. Oz Tormentor in 4th place for WRT, hanging on very nicely, and he's got himself a good confidence boost that now he's seen Meat and Cheese Pie disconnect from the lobby, so that'll increase his chance of being in the top of the championship, or at the top of Meat and Cheese Pie in 3rd place. But getting all out of shape there was Tormentor in 4th place. Flyboarding is not getting himself any closer to Squirrel 18, who's just has a bit of a gap now between him and Flyboarding, and a bit much of a bigger gap between him and It's Racing. Horse Tormentor in 4th, Latigator 5th, Rick Green behind Renegade, 2.8 behind. So there's some gaps. Oh, I did hear some tyre screeches there, but he just held on there, Rick Green. So we're seeing a few gaps arise with some of our drivers in TS3, so not many close battles, as we see SS Boy actually go for a bit of an excursion there. So it's very easy to do, ladies and gentlemen. He's not doing that for show. If I could say he's doing it for show, then we'll be getting our money's worth. But with SS Boy, it is very tricky. You're not able to give tuning available as an option for the TS3 touring car drivers. It makes it very hard to get the car stable through that fast section. To make a move and contact made between Kamara Kid and SS Boys. Just looks like he's just backed off a little bit to give that position back to Kamara Kid. Yes, it has. So very nice, respectable driving there. Lap 6, It's Racing with the fastest lap, going 5/10 quicker than on his previous lap. So you can see by his lap times he's getting quicker and quicker, and unfortunately it doesn't look like we're seeing Squirrel getting himself any closer to It's Racing. It's Squirrel's in the 41.6, It's Racing 40.4. So good pace for the It's Racing driver, making his debut, we will say, in the TS3 Touring Cars Championship. Oh, Squirrels has made a mistake there, just caught the grass and just clipped it, and these days just goes, and his race does not go the way he wanted it on lap 6 of 9. I've just caught it there. Very, very unlucky for Squirrel 18. Was comfortably holding on to 2nd place there, but one tyre on the grass, and that just sent you spinning around, and that's not what Squirrel 18 wanted. So Squirrel 18 from 2nd place down to 7th. Wow, that is unbelievable. So the MSR drivers not having the best of luck here at Trail Mountain. We'll have to make sure we get confirmation if Meat and Cheese Pie will be making a return for race 2 for the TS3 Touring Cars Championship. But that promotes Flyboarding up into 2nd place. We've seen a bit of a surprise coming for Flyboarding in the recent past, especially back at Watkins Glen. He's been showing some really good performances, especially then and there, unfortunately, to get himself tangled in some mishaps and some accidents. But Flyboarding, since Watkins Glen's been putting on some good performances, and you can definitely see that he has the pace, and he's bringing that Robo Sport Racing Nissan GTR towards the front. And I guess you could say, in a way, if it wasn't for It's Racing being here, Flyboarding would actually be leading the race. So this would have been something very interesting for Flyboarding to get himself up towards the front. And it's very good to see him up there. Oz Tormentor, who's no slouch in the park himself, 3rd in the championship, 3 points ahead of Meat and Cheese Pie, but unfortunately with that disconnect, he'll be looking to increase the gap. But also enters not giving up his hope for a P2, and Latigator is 2 seconds right behind, doing a very nice job there, I will say, from Latigator, doing himself a very good job keeping the likes of Renegade behind, as Renegade has a little snip on the inside. Latigator just gets a little bit of contact between the two drivers. And Latigator is going to go just around the outside. Renegade holds the inside line as we go for the exterior shot through the tunnel. The two retro Track Stars diecast going side by side. Renegade on the inside, Latigator on the outside. Who's going to be the late breaker? Looks to be very even here. Latigator's got a little bit more momentum hanging around the outside. Some good racing amongst these two. Latigator still there, side by side. Oh, contact may just, it could have been a big accident there. As I see cars going for an inside, tyres screeching there. We did see Rick Green and Squirrel 18 making contact with each other there. Unfortunate. And Squirrel 18's race is just going from bad to worse. This has picked up a half-second penalty. Very unfortunate for the MSR driver, but Rick Green got a little bit tangled there with Squirrel 18, and Latigator unfortunately losing out to that position to Renegade, and Renegade from last in the group, P15, all the way up into P4, so that's a very good recovery by the Ice Racing Group driver. And he'll be one of the Senny sides with only 2 laps to go to get himself close to Tormentor and Flyboarding, so the two distance ahead of him, all behind Alexis in It's Racing, and It's Racing is just starting to pick up his pace a little bit actually, so he actually lost that a little bit, 41.4. What's going on there, Joe? What's going on there, It's Racing? Losing a bit of speed, my friend. Flyboarding doing an exceptional job for Robo Sport Racing. Also will actually the best result that we'll see coming from Robo Sport Racing from Flyboarding, but we've still got Tormentor on his heels. In his sights, we have Tormentor from WRT. So we've got, like I said, we've got some good representation from main series teams feeding out some drivers and some cars into TS2 and even TS3 as well. It's Racing Esports, Robo Sport Racing, Warpaint Racing Team, WRT, Ice Racing Group, and then we have one of the independent teams in Triple R Motorsport, and then we have Squirrel 18 from Mash Buds Racing, Venti as well from the It's Racing Esports. So the three It's Racing Esports drivers inside the top 8 actually, so that's some very good results there for It's Racing to have 3 cars and both of them inside the top 8, so very lovely to see. And then we have a good representation for FR Racing as well, so Yogi B54 substitute driver, reserve driver coming in for FR Racing, Ben Stick, first of the M&R drivers in 10th place, Kamara Kid in 11th, SS Boy having a nice little battle there with Nightmare around the outside, 13th place, NZL Cowboy rounding up the rear, going onto the final lap. Unfortunately, It's Racing did not get to improve on his lap there, so he was purple on his lap, but was not able to get himself anywhere near the fastest lap time, which is the 1:40.4 set by himself, actually. So very good to see there. So Renegade, he is closing. He's not closing by much, I will say. So he's not closing in by much towards Tormentor. So It's Racing coming through with goods. And in first place, Flyboarding just holding on to Tormentor. I think he's just got a big enough gap to keep P2 and Oz Tormentor as well to keep P3. I do believe Latigator is coming up a little bit under pressure from Rick Green. He is a little bit 0.4. So Rick Green 2 positions down from Renegade 575. So they are big points. Oh, Rick Green trying to go for a late dive on Latigator, but Latigator not flustered at all by that move, and the beautiful defense there by Latigator, but going towards the last section of Trail Mountain, the returning sites of Trail Mountain on Gran Turismo. For the first time in Track Stars in Gran Turismo 7, it is It's Racing taking its first victory in TS3, so congratulations to the man that is the boss of It's Racing Esports. Flyboarding just holding on to P2 there for Robo Sports, giving them their best results in TS3 touring cars. Flyboarding in second place, Tormentor in third, ISA Renegade from the back of the grid in fourth. Latigator just holds on to Rick Green, holds off Rick Green in sixth place, and Squirrel 18 rounding up the top 7. So very unfortunate for Squirrel, holding on to a P2 very nicely there for Squirrel 18, and unfortunately for him, not able to deliver the goods for Mash Buds Racing. Venti SS Gaming coming through very nicely in P8. Ben Stick 9 holding on to Yogi B54 from FR in 10th place, and Kamara Kid as well. So 10th and 11th for FR Racing for Ben, for Yogi and Kamara Kid. SS Boy held on very nicely to make that nice outside move on Nightmare only on the previous lap. Nice Nightmare in 13th, and NZL Cowboy going all sorts of wrong directions there in 14th, and last place for the man that is known as NZL Cowboy, car 28 for M&R Racing. But a beautiful result there by It's Racing. The first Lexus victory, I will say, I will add to the Track Stars TS3 Touring Cars Championships. We've had wins in the Honda, thanks to the win at Daytona, at the Daytona Tri-Oval with Ben Stick 7 and SS Boy giving themselves an M&R 1-2. And then we've seen Nissan GTR dominating the series, Rick Reed taking that double victory back at Dragon Trail, Seaside. But now we finally have the last of the manufacturers getting a victory. It's Racing taking the victory in his Turtle Wax replica of the Track Stars diecast. Very fitting for him to take that victory, and it'll be very emotional for It's Racing as well to get a victory in the retro looking Track Stars Racing Series diecast. Tormentor in third, a beautiful recovery drive by Ice Renegade in the Eagle 1 diecast, Track Stars diecast as well. So awesome recovery drive from Renegade. What could have been if he had pole position? Ladygator just holding on into the top 5, but a bit of a questionable move there by Ladygator, making a dive bomb moon on Meat and Cheese Pie, which unfortunately forced him to disconnect from the lobby. Rick Green, 2 positions behind his championship rival in Renegade 575 and Squirrel 18 in 7th place after what looked to be a comfortable 2nd place for the man in the car 18, and then Venti SS Gaming rounding up the top 8. So there you have it. You have the man that is It's Racing taking the victory away from the rest of the TS3 Touring Cars fields. It's only a cameo for It's Racing, especially if he's on a 5-round contract. So we may see more victories come towards the It's Racing driver. We may be able to see more victories come through for It's Racing himself. But as we give these guys a bit of a 5-minute break from the race, after that, a bit of a recovery, we'll take a quick break from the stream. We'll join you guys in 5 minutes time. I might even do myself a hot lap if you guys would like to see that. I'll take out my trusty and my beloved Lexus SC430, which It's Racing managed to get a victory finally. We'll finally get to see a Lexus victory in TS3 Touring Cars. So we'll give these guys 5 minutes, and we'll give you guys at home 5 minutes to recuperate, grab yourself a drink, go to the bathroom, do whatever you need to do, and we'll catch you guys in 5 minutes time. and sounds of Trail Mountain, the returning Trail Mountain on the Gran Turismo platform. It's great to see this track back in action. They're coming through turns 1 and turns 2. We saw a lot of drivers struggling through that section of track, where the drivers were lifting the front ends of their car actually, and they're getting a little bit of air time. So it kind of reminds me of when Stroll made contact with Fernando Alonso at the US Grand Prix and just a massive wheelie. Think of it as Dominic Toretto from Fast and the Furious actually lifting the front end of his Dodge Charger and doing a bit of a wheelie there. Coming through the windy sections and into the tunnel. A little bit of a break, so the tunnel section is, not the tunnel section, the section leading towards the tunnel, I must add, can be very tricky. It's always about finding that right line, trying to keep the car as straight as possible. Braking the car just not exceeding 300 kilometers down the straight. Blind going up towards the crest into this section here. Actually, it's funny enough, the layout was very different back in GT3 days. Going into this one, so yeah, this section was brought into Gran Turismo 7. I guess by approval and safety, so you don't see drivers throwing themselves into the corner. So let's go for a bit of a hot lap. Let's try and see if we can tackle these corners a little bit quicker. But these guys in TS3 have much better experiences after doing a lap. Oh, no, that's not going to work. There you go. You can tell I'm human, ladies and gentlemen. I'm no robot. I'm no Matt Simmons, unfortunately. It's very hard to do it in CompuCam. So if anyone's actually tried racing Gran Turismo 7 in CompuCam, do let me know, because it is actually very challenging to get the lines right, especially with the front roll bar here in front of me. Very hard to find the corners to start producing air. Hopefully this is something not to come by when we have the main event coming up at 8 o'clock Australian Eastern Daylight Time. To stop myself from embarrassment, I'll actually jump out of the track and I will give these guys the green flag for qualifying. So unfortunately, we're not going to see the return of Meat and Cheese Pie. He's just confirmed he's had a bit of a disconnect from the Gran Turismo server, and we won't be seeing his entry coming in. But we have our drivers in for Track Stars Race 2 qualifying 2 as they get themselves underway. 5 minutes off qualifying. Let's go, go, go. Get themselves to about 12 minutes on the clock. Just about under 12 minutes on the clock there on the bottom left. As we get our drivers underway, you guys will take a break just to take in the sights and sounds thanks to flyboarding on his outlap. Actually, before I do that, I will get this guy, and unfortunately for you, my friends, you might be entered in. First flying lap thanks to flyboarding 072, the guy that took out second place in the Track Stars TS3 Touring Cars Championship for race 1 led by It's Racing, and then this man flyboarding from Robo Sport Racing. Getting that corner section very nicely there. A little bit of a lift off for these cars, so they're not able to go flat, unlike we see in our TS2 and Main Series equipment. We have flyboarding coming through the tunnel, coming out of turns, I believe, turns 1, 2. Yep, turns 4, I believe that is. So lots of corners around this track, and they all come pretty fast. So flyboarding's coming through very nicely onto the, try to get that car hooked around the inside as much as you can, so you can have a straighter exit towards the tunnel, where you get yourself a bit of a break, try and look towards the horizon and find your braking marker. So flyboarding's going to try and do that to set himself up for a very good qualifying lap time. Hard on the brakes, second gear, tuck the car in, maybe short shift that up into third gear, no revs it out. Gets himself a little bit more power going up towards the hill. Flyboarding in the 72. Robo Sport Racing, sponsored by Kick-Ass and Hardcore, Snow Foam, and plenty of sponsorship coming through for Robo Sport Racing. So it's good to see these guys get themselves up and running for sponsorship, and it's very good to see them up towards the front again, where we used to see them back in the Gran Turismo, into the Track Stars Racing Series days in 2020. But flyboarding coming for his first flying lap. He's going to be into the 1 minute 42s, I believe. He's just Rain in third place. You see some drivers coming through pretty quickly. And then we have Renegade now coming into first place, taking out provisional pole position. 1 minute 42.3. Squirrel 18 got a penalty on his lap there, so that's going to be unfortunate for Squirrel, because that would be the end of his lap. He picked himself a half-second penalty, and that's it. He won't be able to find any time at all. Well, let's look at the man that was the race winner of race 1 at Trail Mountain. It's Racing Esports Lexus SC430 coming towards the final corner here, and it's have to wait a very long time for that car to get to the start-finish line. Will he get himself into the 40s? No, a 41.1, so 1.2 clear of ISO Renegade in second place. Flyboard, and unfortunately for Renegade, picks himself a 1 second penalty, so that'll be the end of his qualifying as well. Flyboarding coming through for looks to be an improvement. I'm not too sure. So we'll wait and see what happens to flyboarding's lap time. Squirrel 18 unfortunately picked himself a penalty, which will actually ruin his lap time going into the third lap. So these guys got themselves about 30 seconds before the end of qualifying. So it looks like the man that could get one more lap in will be flyboarding. So he's going to get one more lap in. I'm not so sure if this is going to be improvement on his lap time. May improve it to a 42, but it's not close enough. There you go. He's improved it to a 42. Still stays in third place. Squirrel 18 unfortunately has to serve his penalty. Rick Green, what can we see from the man from Triple R Motorsport as the checkered flag is waved? So there we go. So SS Boy is the last man to cross the start finish line, and I believe as well, hard to see who the last driver could be. I'm not 100% sure, but it looks like It's Racing is on a purple lap for the last time. Can he get himself into the 40s? He'll be disappointed if he can't. But It's Racing coming through. No, still 41. Improves his lap time, but not into the 40, not into the 1 minute 40s. Unfortunate for him. So there we go. Venti SS Gaming actually has improved his positioning very nicely there in P5. So that's a bit of a shock there for Venti SS Gaming. Much better improvement compared to his last lap, or last time out in race 1. I believe we look at the man in flyboarding in third place. We'll wait to see if he can find any improvement on his lap time. Oh no, that is the end of flyboarding's lap time. We just caught it there. Unfortunate for him not to get any more improvements on his lap time. So that's his qualifying done. Let's look at Squirrel 18. He did get held up there by a half-second penalty on the start-finish straight, but couldn't improve his positioning. Maybe he might be able to find some time. We're not so sure. Rick Green and taking on that slipstream from Benstick, and he's done well. And Squirrel 18's actually improved his lap time as well. So Squirrel and Rick Green on their last lap have improved. Benstick, unfortunately, could not improve on his lap time as the drivers are filing through. The last driver, Kamara Kid, in 11th place. And not able to, or actually went fastest, but unfortunately not able to move up too many positions, just outside the top 10 behind SS Boy 82. Alright, so that is our grid set. I will untick because unfortunately I am ticked in. I do apologise, otherwise I'd be racing. If you guys want to see me race, do let me know. I might as well just jump in for a bit of fun. Nah, I won't do that that to these guys. Especially after my spin there and my what was supposed to be a hot lap, but unfortunately turned out to be a spin lap, as Jarman actually puts in the spinilla. Exactly right, my friend. So there we go. We have our grid set. Beautiful by race 2 drivers. Just over a second that covers the top 2. So it's racing a pole position ahead of an MSR driver in Squirrel 18. Not Meat and Cheese Pie, unfortunately. But it is Squirrel 18 taking out that second place. Rick Green, a beautiful lap there, taking a full advantage of Benstick's slipstream in 3rd place. Ice Renegade holds on to 4th place. Unfortunate for him to not get a good lap in on that last one. Flyboarding was sitting nicely in P3, but drops down to P5, and Venti in the top 6 with Benstick, Tormentor. Bit of a sort of shock there for Tormentor down in 8th. Latigator, SS Boy rounding up the top 10 with Kamara getting 11th, Yogi B54 12th, Ice Nightmare, and NZL Cowboy rounding up your top 14. 5.4 separates the top 14 drivers, but trust me, 5.4 is pretty close for these guys. These guys will be looking to get themselves pretty high up towards the grid, and we can't wait to see what our drivers can do this evening as we're about to get the race underway for race 2 of the Trail Mountain Sprint here at Track Stars TS3 Touring Cars. Can It's Racing get himself a clean sweep? Can somebody else upset him and take out the victory? Could Squirrel 18 make amends for that spin from the last time out? Or can Rick Green finally find some momentum in his 69 Triple R Motorsport? We shall wait and see. So for the final time here at Track Stars Racing Series TS3 Touring Cars, It's Racing and Squirrel 18 on the front row, as unfortunately my cameras have gone a little bit wayward, so I'll have a bit of a word with my cameraman after the race. But we are underway, and Squirrel 18's got himself a perfect launch over It's Racing, so he's going to be the one to make the inside move. Rick Green holds on to 3rd place, and huge contact between our drivers at the back there. Huge contact of carnage amongst all drivers everywhere. And we see Tormentor as well getting contact as well. We saw Nightmare, Cowboy, looks like Venti and Gator managed to get themselves tangled up in all of that, because Kamara Kid's moved up into 7th. SS Boy has avoided all carnage, and he's in 6th place. Renegade holds on to 5th, so looks like the biggest winner out of that believes to be SS Boy in car 40. Wow, there was a huge carnage amongst the back fender there, so very like a TS3 Touring Cars race start. We've been seeing some clean starts from our boys, but unfortunately for that one, a little bit of chaos and a little bit of miscommunications amongst our drivers for that opening race start. But we go back towards the front. Squirrel 18 and It's Racing duking it out for 1st place. It's Racing has taken back 1st position. Squirrel in 2nd place. Rick Green in 3rd place, a much better positioning for him. Oh, Flyboarding's just run a bit wide there. That'll open up an advantage for Renegade to make a move, not just yet. So he'll hold on to 5th place with SS Boy. A beautiful start from him, just inside the top 10 and making himself up into 6th place. So we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll make sure the stewards will be making a big note on that in the touring cars at the end of the TS3 Touring Cars Championship, with Tormentor getting the worst of it all in 14th and last place. So yeah, that's what happens, unfortunately, when you put yourself in a bad position in qualifying. 8th place he started, and he's all the way down in 14th and last place. And we see NZL Cowboy going for a bit of a spin himself. So his day goes from bad to worse for NZL Cowboy. Benstick as well was also another driver that got involved in that first lap incident. So so we'll make sure to keep an eye on all of that. But It's Racing, the leader at the end of lap 1, starting lap 2. It's Racing ahead of Squirrel 18, so not getting away quickly between him and Squirrel. Squirrel 18 is starting to find a little bit of time on the It's Racing driver, but we'll wait for It's Racing to stretch his legs out just a little bit more, and we'll see that gap come up to about 1.5, 1.6 at the end of this lap. But you never know, we might see Squirrel 18 put it in a surprise in the Car 18 MSR Steel City National Clubs Racing Nissan. Rick Green from Triple R Motorsport hanging on very nicely into third place. He's actually gapped Flyboarding and Renegade. So Renegade going for an inside move. He looks to make the move on Flyboarding as they go side by side. The RSR drivers just holding on to 4th place. There we go. Flyboarding stays in 4th. Renegade in 5th place. Just the camera angles we're getting. It's not the best camera angles that we're seeing here this evening. And Renegade sticks his nose on the inside, can't make the move stick. But a very good attempt there nonetheless from Renegade 575. He's actually losing time. They're both losing time to Rick Green. That's actually gone up to 3 seconds now. So the constant battling these two are having is opening the gap between them and Rick Green, inviting the likes of Latergator to join the party as well as time goes by. But Renegade with a much better run on Flyboarding will take that inside line. Will he be able to hold that? Maybe a bit of a gentleman's agreement amongst those two to see who will take that first position going into turn 1. Oh, can get very sketchy, very hairy, but beautiful driving nonetheless from our drivers. Flyboarding stays in 4th and Renegade in 5th, so awesome battling amongst those guys. So we'll keep our eyes on that from that battle pack. Rick Green getting close towards Squirrel 18. Squirrel is, as we said, as we predicted, is about 1.5 behind It's Racing, 1.6 now behind It's Racing Esports. So Squirrel 18 holding on into 2nd place. Rick Green in 3rd, Flyboarding just holding off Renegade inside the top 5. Latergator just outside of it is 1.8 behind Renegade, but coming in with a lot of pace. He's been showing some good pace, especially in that race 1. Some good pace from Latergator in the car 31, car 29 of It's Racing Esports. Lexus, second up Lexus. Yeah, from It's Racing inside the top 6, with unfortunately Venti outside the top 8 after putting himself into P5. So I wonder if he was part of had some issues at the start as well for car 31. The winner, the overall winner of the Bathurst TS3 Touring Cars Championship, put on a beautiful performance. Oh, as he sees SS Boy ahead of him going all sorts sideways. Unfortunately, he just held on to that. SS Boy holds on to 8th and Venti holds on into 9th place. But yeah, going back to Venti, doing a really good job to keep that top position at Bathurst, putting on all those hard performances and extra hours for getting those laps in. Unfortunately, now sitting in 9th place behind the M&R driver. Yogi B54 just inside the top 10 with his teammate in 7th place, Kamaro Kid. So he's putting on a really good performance there, Kamaro, after all the mishaps that we saw on the opening lap. So something maybe happened with some drivers. We'll keep an eye on that. Come up with some more news later on. Oz Taventa unfortunately hasn't been able to get any more positions gained. So he's stuck with P13 with NZL Cowboy rounding out the top 14 drivers. It's Racing stretching his legs in that Lexus, and he's doing himself a lot of good favours to pull away from Squirrel. Squirrel's actually losing time to Rick Green in 3rd place, and Renegade has made the move on Flyboarding, so now it's up to Renegade to try and close the gap with only 5.5 laps to go towards his championship rival in Rick Green. Only 90 points separates the two drivers, but with Renegade finishing 2 spots ahead of Rick Green in the last race, it could even close the gap a little bit further. And we haven't even encountered drop rounds as well, ladies and gentlemen. So drop rounds is actually something we'll have to keep an eye on for coming into round 12. So in 2 rounds time, we'll see the drop rounds come into play, and we'll get a better gauge on how close Rick Green, Renegade, and even Meat and Cheese Pie are towards the championship. Racing into the 40s already at 1 minute 40.8. The Squirrel into the 1 minute 41s, 41.5. So not able to kind of reduce that lap in qualifying, unfortunately for Squirrel, but he's able to do that into the race. 1.4 ahead of Rick Green, and Rick Green losing a little bit of time to Renegade, who's coming in very fast, so 41.519 versus 41.795. So he's just closing ever so slightly, and we may see a good battle between Renegade and Rick Green towards the end of this race. Flyboarding holding on to 5th place at 1 minute 42.8. Not the best lap he's done. It's his best lap, but not the lap times that we would see from Flyboarding amongst the rest of the field up the front. Latergator putting in those extra laps in as well. 42.7 as his best lap. And then we have the rest of the field. Kamara Kid Venti back into 8th place, making a move on SS Boy. And Ben Stick, his teammate, inside the top 10. There's a little bit spread out at the moment. The closest battle pack we will see is the battle pack 4 second. So, and Renegade's just lost a little bit of time, just a little touch of time towards him and Rick Green. Rick Green's ever so slightly pulling away at some sections, and then he loses the gap, and then he pulls away again. So that's the same with Squirrel 18 as well. He'll pull away from Rick Green, especially here. There you go. So you can see he's definitely put a margin on Rick Green. He's got a great run, I will say. Squirrel 18, he did on that going onto the main straight, just almost 2 seconds going into the first kink. Turn 1, very fast section. Really trying to control that car as much as you can. Try not to let it go try not to let it do a wheelie going into the first tunnel into sector 1. Renegade's closed up a little bit, so 41.6 versus a 42.2. So he's closing the gap pretty quickly on Rick Green. He's finding the time, but he's running out of laps here. Only just under 4 laps to go for the Ice Racing Group driver, the man in 2nd place, to try and catch up towards Rick Green in 3rd place. It's Racing still holding on to that 3.8 second margin, so still holding him within the 3 seconds to 4 seconds range. Squirrel 18 not letting go just yet. He's not fast. He's not the fastest compared to It's Racing. But a 41.4 is very respectable, and it's keeping It's Racing pretty honest, as he's actually just lost a little bit of time there in that section. 1.6 slower than his fastest lap. So Squirrel 18 could start making a bit of a move or getting himself into the 40s. We shall wait and see. Rick Green, he's losing time to Squirrel. He's also losing time to Renegade, and look at that, he's actually after. Oh, Renegade's on the grass, just getting himself onto the grass, trying to find himself as much time as he can, as much advantage as he can to keep that car straight. And Renegade in 4th place, he's gained a lot of time, 1.7, so you can definitely see Rick Green is really struggling to get traction out of that last corner compared to Renegade, a 41.2 versus a 42.2, so he's taken 1 second away from Rick Green on that last lap. So we'll see a good duel between the 2 championship contenders, and Rick Green and Renegade, on the last remaining laps. And Flyboarding will be there to pick up the pieces if contact is made. Latergator in 6th place, Venti back into making a move into 7th place ahead of Kamara Kid. Ben Stick made a move with his teammate in SS Boy, rounding up inside the top 10. Yogi B54, Nightmare and Tormentor in that 13th place. So a race to forget for Tormentor. That last lap, a 1 minute 52. So not the race that Tormentor is having, not the best race that he's having. He's having a shocking race to, a race to forget. He'll gain points on meat and cheese pie, but won't be able to gain enough points to make any impact in the championship as of yet. But we also have to consider drop rounds coming in later on. So he's racing, stretching his legs a lot more there. So he's actually pulled some time away from the Squirrel. So 4.9 it is, so 5 seconds gap between the top 2 drivers. So this could be a really good lap here by It's Racing. The Squirrel, a minute 42. He's actually picked up a 1 second penalty, so that explains it to why he's actually gained some time. So Squirrel 18 is losing, has not just lost time to It's Racing, but he's picked himself a 1 second penalty, and 1 second here would feel like an eternity with Squirrel 18. There you go, he served it. So on board with Rick Green, makes a move on Squirrel 18. Will Squirrel 18 hold off Renegade 575? He'll just hold it off there. Yes, so Squirrel 18 just only drops one position behind Rick Green, and Renegade in position 4, Squirrel in third. So unlucky for Squirrel 18 to not make the move, not to keep that position stick. But we're going to have a nice juicy battle towards the finish with only just under 2 laps to go. Rick Green, Squirrel 18 and ISA Renegade 575. Only just under a second separates those guys between second and fourth place. Who will get those moves done? Who will take out the major prize in second? And that will be second place on offering. Renegade actually coming in with the fastest laps there. So I actually did not see that. So Renegade with the fastest lap, 1 minute 40.7. So It's Racing will be like, oh, you know, Renegade, you set a fast lap here. I don't know what's going on there, my friend. So I'm going to set a fast lap here. There we go. He's 0.032 up on the fastest lap. So good second sector, so good third sector there for It's Racing. But we don't want to keep an eye. We don't want to really keep an eye on lap times. We want to keep an eye on this race here, ladies and gentlemen. Rick Green, Squirrel 18, and Renegade 575 coming up towards the final lap, coming up towards the start of the final lap here. Rick Green holding on to second. Squirrel 18, after getting himself a 1 second penalty on the previous lap, he's lost the momentum, lost that position to Rick Green. Rick Green's run a little bit wide. Oh, Renegade going for a move. He doesn't get it. Almost contact made between those drivers. And here we go for the final time here. We've got one more lap remaining, ladies and gentlemen. It's Racing comfortably pulling himself away in first place, setting a personal best but not a fastest lap. Rick Green holding on to second, Squirrel in third. Renegade just losing a little bit of touch between himself and Squirrel in fourth place. Flight boarding 5.3 behind, and a lot of gaps formulating between these guys. A good battle pack for looks to be for 7th place, 8th place, we'll say. But we will keep an eye on those position changes later on. We'll keep an eye on It's Racing making the moves, and the one making the moves is Renegade 575. He's trying to sneak his nose in, trying to go for an outside move, anywhere he can find a gap to make a move on Squirrel 18. Unfortunately, it's not coming towards him at all. And Squirrel's actually not close enough for a slipstream, and Renegade is. So we could see a late dive bomb move from ISA Renegade 575. Squirrel holding the inside line, making one defensive move there on the inside. Renegade going for the late move. He's going to make contact with Squirrel 18. A little bit of contact made between the drivers, but Renegade holds on into third place. A little bit of contact between those two, and Squirrel loses out in fourth place. Renegade moves up into third place. Renegade holds on. A nice late move there for Renegade 575. Squirrel's coming back very thick and fast. We'll keep an eye on that battle pack as they come towards the finish line. But the man that's going to take out the clean sweep and the round victory is It's Racing. Car 95 taking out the round victory. Clean sweep for the man that is the leader of It's Racing Esports. But we go back to this battle pack. Rick Green holds off ISA Renegade. A beautiful second place for Rick Green in for Triple R Motorsports. ISA Renegade, a nice drive to just take that last spot away on the podium from Squirrel 18 in fourth place. Flyboarding, credit where credit is due for the man in the car 72 in fifth place. Beautiful job there. Later Gator coming through into sixth place, and Venti SS Gaming in seventh place. So three of the It's Racing drivers inside the top 7. So great stuff, great sight to see for It's Racing Esports to get 3 cars inside the top 7. Beautiful scenes. Amari Kid putting on a good performance to hold off into 8th place. Ben Stick in 9th. Yogi B54 in 10th. SS Boy in 11th. Ice Nightmare in 12th. And Oz Tormento, just taste goes from bad to worse for the man in car 890, unfortunately for him, in 13th, and only one position away from being in last place, which is occupied by NZL Cowboy, car 28 for M&R. Very unlucky for Tormentor. Obviously something happened on that opening lap between him and a few drivers that we did see make some contact. There was a huge cluster between the drivers. So something happened between Tormentor and somebody else in that field as well. But there we go. NZL Cowboy crosses the line, doesn't get lapped, but the man that does take the victory is It's Racing, car 95. in the proudly representation of the Turtle Wax diecast from Track Stars, fitting to take out the clean sweep and the victory in race 2 for round 10 of Track Stars TS3 touring cars. So fantastic performance there by our drivers here this evening. We cannot wait to see what these guys can do in round 11 coming up in a week's time. But for now, for myself and the commentary box, I thank you guys so much for joining in and joining me along for what is a momentous occasion, bringing you the retro round here at Track Stars Racing Series. You'll see a lot of retro cars coming through in TS2 and maybe even and especially the main series, and that'll be broadcasted to you both 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. respectively. So with our drivers ready, leaving themselves away from leaving the track, putting their cars back on the transporter, making their way onto the next event, which I believe, if I look quickly on my series calendar, we are going to Deep Forest Raceway. So another OG track returning to the Track Stars Racing Series calendar and to Gran Turismo as well. So we cannot wait to see what will happen at making our return at Deep Forest Raceway. Awesome to have Trail Mountain back on our game in Gran Turismo. It's awesome to see. Thank you, Polyphony, for bringing it back. But as well, please fix up your lobbies and fix up your lobby settings as well. Got to get that plug in. But anyway, on behalf of myself, as the host and streamer, we'll be bringing you the live coverage of TS2 in just under an hour's time, broadcasted by It's Racing himself, the man that took out the double victory in TS3. But for now, we will catch you guys then. But for me and the TS3 boys, we'll catch you guys next week at Deep Forest Racing.